Good evening and welcome to the city's tonight's City Council meeting, June 15th, 2015. It's 6 o'clock and we're going to start the meeting. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Ford?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bullock?
Here.
Councilman Douglas? Here. Councilwoman Elliott?
Present.
Councilman McEldowney? Councilman Benson? Present. Councilwoman Carson? Councilman Teeter?
Here.
Councilman Amador?
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, and please let the record reflect that Councilman McEldowney and Councilwoman Carson are not with us this evening, and I would ask the council if they would vote to allow for an excused absence as we were acknowledge the fact that they were going to be gone tonight. Mr. Amador?
So moved.
Mr. Bullock?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to excuse Councilman McEldowney and Councilwoman Carson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. First item on the agenda, I need a motion to enter into an executive session. Mr. Teeter, you want to make that motion?
Move into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses E, for the purpose of instructing negotiations regarding water transactions.
And potential contracts. All right. Is there a second? Mr. Amador?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We will be back out to conclude our council meeting. The plan is to be out by 7 o'clock, so please bear with us and we'll be out. Thank you.
Amy Shippey, Aurora.
Nicole Ray, state champ mom, Henderson, Colorado.
Luz Almeida, Commerce City.
Olivia, Commerce City.
Claudia, Commerce City.
Shantae, Commerce City.
Lexi, Commerce City.
Christine Hernandez, proud grandmother of my volleyball player.
Diana from Commerce City.
Robert Sheasley, City Attorney's Office. Chris Kramer, Community Development and Volleyball Fan.
Maria DeAndre, Public Works.
Angelo Montour.
Sylvia Montour, another proud grandmother of a state volleyball champ.
Lance Allen with Waste Management.
Tony Howard, Waste Management of Colorado.
Daphne Michelson, Commerce City.
Gavin Michelson, City.
Kingston McCormick, Henderson.
Andrea McCormick, another proud mom of a volleyball player.
Sherry, another proud grandma volleyball player.
Taylor, state champion.
Taylor, state champion. Alexis from Commerce City.
Adriana from Commerce City.
Abigail Ray, Commerce City Rec.
Yoslin, Commerce City.
Estela, Commerce City.
Ana Alicia, Commerce City.
Kaylee Cuevas, Commerce City.
All right, well, it sounds like we have a lot of volleyball players and/or parents or grandparents. You just want to get it out of your system. You're all state champions. We're all proud of you. So couldn't be happier for Commerce City to have a sports team that's doing well. So thank you all for being here tonight. And I know there's some other folks in the audience that have some other businesses to attend to. We're going to take care of the volleyball players early on, okay? All right, first item on the agenda, volleyball team recognition. We're going to go with proclamations and recognition. And the first thing we have is the volleyball team recognition. And I was looking for it. It says here I'm supposed to read the background information. I don't see it. You have it?
Sir, if you pull up your agenda on your,
Thank you. I got
and
it
on the
here. I got it
attachment,
here. Got it.
the council communication, which is the summary.
Perfect. Now you want me to read this, and it's awful small print, but I'm going to do my best. The Colorado Association of Recreational Athletics, CARA, is a subsection of the Colorado Parks and Recreation Association. The CARA section was created and designed to be a program with a strong recreational format for the non-ranked, non-sanctioned participant. CARA holds local, regional, and state competitions in youth and adult athletics throughout the state. Although competition is a component of the CARA program, and all participants are encouraged to perform to the best of their ability, it is emphasized that this is of secondary importance to the development of skills and sportsmanship, while including all participants with any level of experience is of primary concern. This past spring season, Commerce City had 5 teams participate in the CARA state volleyball tournaments held throughout the metro area on May 16th. All of our teams worked very hard and showed good sportsmanship throughout the entire season. 2 Commerce City teams actually won their respective divisions. Coach Nikki Teeter and her 3rd and 5th grade team won the A Division state tournament, and Randy Ray and his 6th to 8th grade team won the D Division state tournament. CARA Division A state champion, Colas Coach Nikki Teeter. Let me see, I don't know if I'm going to mess all these names up or not, but I'm going to try to read them just so you get the acknowledgement. We have Ruby Villalpando Nielsen, Caitlin Medford, Clara Coster, Sophia Chavez, Katie Teeter, Brooklyn Ray, Lacey Waterhouse, Madison McKenzie, and Sydney Kuza. All right, Cara Division D state champion, Lady Smashers. Coach Randy Ray, Lady Smasher. That's a good name. Taylor Kramer, Kaylee Cuevas, Abigail Ray, Taylor McCormick, Angelica Morehouse, and Elisa, thank you. Estella Bustios, thank you. Adriana Hernandez, Yoslin Almeida, Alexis Montour. And that's what I'm assuming is all out in the audience. So first thing we have a proclamation here. This for Fun City?
No, sir, there's no proclamation. Just
No proclamation.
Would like you to invite them all forward. And
That's
take
what I need,
pictures
a
with them.
picture.
Thank you.
We want all the volleyball state champions to come on up here and stand right out here in front. We're going to join you. And before we come down there, I just want to congratulate each and every one of you for your good sportsmanship and for achieving state champions. If the council would join me down front, please.
We're going to stand on the stairs. Go closer to the stairs and layer yourself.
No proclamation. Some of you on the photo, second, you know what? We ought to have coaches up there as well. Shorter ones up front, taller ones in the back. Oh, Taylor. Where is she? She's up here, isn't she? Nikki? Are you with us? Same height.
Hey, come on, parents. Come on up here and get pictures.
Grandparents, whoever needs to do it, now's the time. We'll have our staff take some pictures so you can all get in it and not have to worry about being missed out.
Okay, now we're going to all turn around and take a picture of us walking away. I'm joking.
All right, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. There's several people up here who have something they want to say, so I'm going to go down the list if you push your buttons. We'll start with proud grandparent of a state champion, Rick Teeter.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to our rec center for the program that they put in place and all the hard work that that these young ladies compete. The same with the Reunion Rec Center up north. They're the ones in the finals. Yes, so they was also in the finals. Which one took second? You guys are Reunion.
The other Commerce City team took second.
Okay, so the other Commerce City team did take second also. So we are extremely proud of these ladies, and like I said, in the program. And as grandparent, I couldn't be any prouder. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Douglas.
Yes, thank you, ladies, and thank you, staff. I can say my youngest daughter played with Cara League for Commerce City, and she actually got a volleyball scholarship. So I can tell you she liked the sport very well, so she was able to help her pay for her college. But thank all you parents and your kids for participating, because this is huge for Commerce City. We're going to be having a new rec center, and hopefully we can help sponsor you girls for a feeder team. So thank you very much.
All right. We have Mr. Benson.
I want to congratulate all of you for getting involved in recreational athletics this soon. I know some people don't think that it's good for people to compete because somebody always has to lose, but that's the way it is in life. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose, but this is an accomplishment to be real proud of. And I'm sure that you all know that most colleges have women's volleyball teams, and if you get good enough, it'll help pay for your college expenses. So good luck to all of you.
Councilwoman Elliott.
Woohoo! Very proud, very proud. Thank you to not only the girls and the coaches, but to families and friends that support these girls. This is just such a shining moment. I think we all have permanent smiles on our faces, even after taking pictures. I just want to commend you and continue the good work and just keep striving for the best.
All right, Mr. Bullock.
Yes, I want to thank you girls for doing such a great job and taking the state championship. But I also want to thank the parents and coaches, because none of you girls drive. And if they didn't get you to these meets and sacrifice for you, you wouldn't be doing this. So thank you to the parents and the coaches and the grandparents and everybody that makes this possible for you girls to do the job that you did. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that participated. And like Mr. Bullock said, it's not just the fact that you kids are good enough to win the state championship. It's that you have parents and grandparents that are good enough to get you to the games and to support you. And a lot of times it takes a community that will support you. And our rec department, our parents, our grandparents, and this city council are very proud of the fact that you achieved what you did achieve. So keep going after it, and we'll see you next year after you win the state championship again. All right, we'll take a short pause. So anybody that's here for the volleyball that wishes to leave so they won't disrupt the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome to leave now, but you are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like to as well. Well, there went half our audience, or better, maybe 3/4, 90%. It was a lot of audience that just left. Next item on the agenda, Day of Play Proclamation. I'd like to invite the Parks and Recreation and golf staff forward to receive this proclamation. And I'd like to ask the city attorney to read the proclamation. Good evening.
City of Commerce City, Colorado. Whereas play is a valuable part of a child's healthy development and is a crucial factor in the overall well-being of children as well as people of all ages. And whereas a productive, healthy, and physically fit child becomes a socially competent and proactive adult. And whereas children who play do better in school and develop cognitive skills that are linked to learning and academic performance. And whereas unstructured, spontaneous, and self-motivated play is on the decline nationwide, and it is important to reverse that trend. And whereas the City of Commerce City acknowledges children are one of our most important resources. Therefore, we must ensure safe and accessible play spaces for all children. And whereas the city promotes children as well as people of all ages spend time outside at parks, trails, and playgrounds with family and friends. And whereas the City of Commerce City will join Playful Cities USA in celebrating Play Day by hosting a free family fun zone at the annual Fourth Fest celebration July 4 at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, on behalf of City Council, hereby proclaim Saturday, July 4, 2015 as a day of play in the City of Commerce City and encourage all citizens to participate and do their part in promoting active living and healthy lifestyles for our youth. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal to be affixed on the 15th day of June, 2015, City of Commerce City, Sean Ford, Mayor.
Great, thank you, Bob. All right, Council, we need to have a motion to approve the proclamation. Mr. Amador?
Move to approve Proclamation 15-19, 2015 Day of Play Proclamation.
Thank you. Mr. Teeter? I have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation as read. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. And we're coming down to take some pictures, but I just wanted to thank the recreation staff. I mean, after seeing all these young girls from the volleyball teams and their achievements, we know that you guys are doing a good job over there, and we appreciate everything you're doing. Hopefully this Play Day on July 4th will be a great event for a lot of the residents of our community. If the council will join me down front, please.
My crowd has to take a picture.
I think that's
It's their work.
Okay, ready. 1, 2, 3. One more. Big smile. Perfect.
It's warm in here tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I got my fan going.
I'm telling
Feeling
you.
pretty good now.
I can't do mine. It makes too much noise.
You have a low setting.
All right, next item on the agenda is the citizen communication. And as we approach the election season, City Council would like to remind candidates for elected office that political activity in the city building is prohibited per resolution 2008-60. This includes campaigning from the podium. So please come up and give your name and address for the record. Keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. We have one person on the citizen communication sheet this evening. I'd like to have Carolyn Taylor Boyd come up. And remember to state your name and address for the record. And welcome.
My name is Carolyn
I'm Carol Taylor Boyd, and I live at 15501 East 112th Avenue, number 29C, Commerce City, 80022. And I'm also a member of the Quality Community Foundation, and I chaired this year's 2015 golf tournament. And I just wanted to give you a brief update on how the golf tournament went.
Great, thank you.
Very pleased to say that it was a success. We had 68 golfers, and this money will be used to fund our Quality Community Scholarship, Academic Scholarship Program. Every year since 2006, we have provided at least one $4,000 scholarship for a deserving Commerce City resident. We offer the scholarships to both traditional and non-traditional students who are pursuing degrees at Colorado colleges, universities, and vocational schools. All of the money raised then from this golf tournament will be used for that fund. We had some great feedback from the golfers. We received several comments on how well organized we were. One golfer shook my hand and told me it was the best golf tournament he'd ever been in. The people were very respectful when the scholarship recipients spoke at lunch. And we had praise for the lunch menu as well. And I would like to thank the members of our planning committee for all their hard work and dedication. Carlotta Barnes, Leanne Noel, Reba Drotar, City of Commerce City Councilman member Rick Teeter, and Terry Smith, Vice President of Development for Stout Street Foundation. And I would like to thank City Council members Andrew Amador and Steve Douglas, and City Manager Brian McBroom for playing in the tournament. And I'd like to thank the volunteers I'd like to thank Commerce City for providing volunteers for the tournament. We had volunteers from Stout Street Foundation, and my husband helped too. We'd like to thank Will Pinella and his staff from the Buffalo Run Golf Course, and Rob Mitzer for his staff from the Bison Grill. Again, we had a delicious lunch. And a very special thank you to our scholarship recipients, Valerie Medina, 2009 recipient, and Abigail Jimenez, 2014 recipient. Both of them were at the luncheon and spoke. Amanda Lee, our 2015 scholarship winner, was at the golf tournament, and she volunteered. She helped, but she didn't speak. And then Tanya Celerio Romero was a 2013 recipient, and she's currently in Guatemala on a service learning project. And so she shared her experience with us through a letter that Carlotta Barnes read for her at the luncheon. We decided to try something new with our sponsorship levels. We used building and construction metaphors this year. So highest level that we achieved was lead sponsors, and that City of Commerce City was one, Adams County, and United Power were the other two. You know the Quality Community Foundation mostly as for the grants program, but there's really more to us than that. The grants program is this funding that the city provides, and we review the grant applications and then make the recommendations to the city council, as who to fund and how much to fund. But there's more to us. We are an all-volunteer board. Our board members are required to make a monetary donation. It's yearly and as voluntary as the amount is. We raise funds for the scholarship program, and the academic scholarship program, and the athletic scholarship program. And the city doesn't provide any funding for this. It's all done by the board members. And since we decided last year that we really had to start to grow the scholarship fund again, we weren't able to continue the tradition yearly because our membership levels fell too far. So with a raise in the membership levels And because two of us, myself and Carlotta, are retired, we offered our services to plan and, work on the program, on the scholarship golf tournament this year. And it really went well. We were so encouraged by the results and by our evaluation process that we have already scheduled the 2016 Quality Community Scholarship Golf Tournament for June 16th, 2010. June 10th, 2016. I'm sorry. I'm a little dyslexic, but I'm nervous.
That's all right.
And in the meantime, I would like to invite you all to attend our second annual wine tasting at the Bison Grill at the Buffalo Run Golf Course. That will be October 1st, 2015. The proceeds from the wine tasting are going to go for the athletic scholarships. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for everything you do in our community. I'm glad the golf tournament, usually when you come back from after not having one, it's really tough to get participation. Sounds like you had a great participation and it's going to grow from here on. So we're really glad that it was successful, and we appreciate all your hard work for the community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Amador, do you have something you want to say?
Yes, I just want to thank you again for all of your hard work and making the golf tournament come back. It is a hard event to try to get back going again. Mother Nature did cooperate with us this year, so it wasn't freezing cold as a couple of the other golf tournaments I've done this year, and I just want to thank you again.
Mr. Teeter?
Yes, I'd like to personally thank you, too, for your hard work and time, you and Carletta, and Leanne. You three were the main drivers in this thing, and you did a lot of good work for the city. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Douglas?
Yes, I'll also like to tell you thank you very much. It was great participation, and the lunch was great, and I appreciate all your help and all you did. So thank you.
Thanks again. All right, next item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes. And we have the March 16th minutes, and it looks like everybody was here. So I'm open for a motion to approve the March 16th minutes. Mr. Bullock?
Move to approve the March 16th minutes.
Mr. Amador?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of March 16th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now we have the May 11th minutes, but first I need a motion to allow Elliott and Carson to abstain. Carson not being here, but we'll still make it for the record. Mr. Amador?
So move.
Mr. Bullock?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for to allow the abstention of Councilwoman Carson and Councilwoman Elliott from voting on the minutes of May 11th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now we can take up the May 11th minutes. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve the May 11 minutes
Thank
of
you.
spatial meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Teeter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the special meeting minutes of May 11th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. They are presented to council for a single motion and vote. Any member of the council may ask to remove a specific item for further discussion and/or a separate vote. Tonight, there are 10 items listed under the consent agenda. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item off of the consent agenda for further discussion and a separate vote? Seeing no one, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Councilwoman Elliott.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Will the city attorney please read the titles of the items on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2051 title, an ordinance amending section 6-2012B1D of the Commerce City Revised Municipal Code pertaining to the maintenance of weeds and vegetation on undeveloped properties that exceed 5 acres in size. Title of Ordinance Z-919-15, an ordinance rezoning the property described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, located at 7420 East 86th Avenue, Commerce City, Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of Commerce City to reflect said rezoning. Title of Ordinance AN-234-15 reads, an ordinance approving and accomplishing the annexation of contiguous unincorporated territory described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, located at 7420 East 86th Avenue, Commerce City, Colorado. Title of Resolution 2015-46, Resolution approving an agreement for construction contract between the City of Commerce City and A1 Chip Seal Company for 2015 Slurry Seal Project. Title of Resolution 2015-53, Resolution appointing Teresa Ablau to serve as the hearing officer for the Commerce City Marijuana Licensing Authority. Title of Resolution 2015-56, Resolution appointing members to designated boards and commissions of Commerce City. Title of Resolution 2015-52, approving grant of easement to Public Service Company of Colorado. Title of Resolution 2015-58, approving grant of easement to Public Service Company of Colorado. Title of Resolution 2015-59, approving grant of easement to Public Service Company of Colorado. Title of Resolution 2015-60, approving grant of easement to Public Service Company of Colorado. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. The title's been read, and I'll ask for a roll call vote. For the record, 7 in favor, 2 excused. Motion is carried. We'll move on to public hearings. We start with the 2015 JAG Formula Grant. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Ask if council has any questions or comments. Anybody?
This is pretty clear cut.
All right, just checking. Is there anyone in the audience with questions or comments on the 2015 JAG Formula Grant? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve moving forward with the grant application. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve presentation 15-286 2015, the JAG Formula Grant public hearing for $16,354.
Thank you. Mr. Amador?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We'll move on to resolutions. We have Resolution 2015-49. Anyone on council have any questions regarding this resolution? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and address the council on this resolution? Seeing no one, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the resolution. Mr. Amador.
Move to approve Resolution 2015-49, resolution approving agreement relating to the purchase and sale of Turnberry Parcel O.
Thank you. Mr. Teeter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in
Should
favor?
I read it, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, why don't you read that?
Title reads, Resolution approving agreements relating to the purchase and sale of Turnberry Parcel O.
Thank you. Now, the title's been read, and I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. Next, we have Resolution 2015-62. Does anyone on council have any questions regarding this resolution? Saying no one, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and address the council on this resolution? Saying no one, I'm open for a motion. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve Resolution 2015-62.
Thank you. Mr. Amador.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Bob, would you mind reading this one this time?
Title reads, Resolution approving contract to buy and sell FRICO ERU water and option credits to SDM Investments, LLC.
Thank you. Title's been read. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Next item, Resolution 2015-57. I'd like to invite the Finance Director, Cheryl Karsten, forward to make a brief presentation on the resolution. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have a quick presentation here for you. So attached in your packet is not only this presentation, but there is also the directory of fees section that outlines the fees that staff has come up with. We wanted to let you know that staff has been meeting over the last few months to evaluate the number of hours anticipated by the collective group of people in order to review marijuana licensing applications. That time includes staff attendance at pre-app meetings as well as monitoring compliance throughout the business cycle. PD provided a thorough analysis of their costs and what it would take to do those extensive background checks. And the fees and the staff time were comparable to a number of area municipalities. We did significant research, was done not only by the city clerk, Laura Bauer, but Priscilla Mankowski from IT helped contacting a lot of those area municipalities to find out what they were doing. So all of those things were taken into consideration when staff was putting together the numbers. This outlines the fees that staff is recommending. We've tried to break it out by the various things that applicants can go through. So not only a new application fee, you'll see that some of those fees, if it's retail, that is paid directly to the state and they send that fee to the city. If it's medical, they would pay that fee directly to the city themselves. There is an additional application background check, so depending on the number of applicants, there would be one applicant background check included with their $2,500 fee, but for any additional ones, we're recommending an additional fee of $1,200. There's an operating fee, whether it be for retail or medical, of $5,000. If they need to do a modification of premises, that is $2,500. And then you'll see there are three things listed there. The staff determined that if any of those things were to happen, it would be considered a new application and the same fees would apply. If they submitted requests for a trade name change, there is a small fee of $100 associated with that. Their renewals, $2,500, and then zoning report is $200, and you can see that one report is included as part of the application process. And again, these fees were determined by taking into consideration not only the staff time and breaking that analysis down in-house, but also what area municipalities are charging as well. Our next steps, the resolution is attached for your consideration. This just repeats what I said at the beginning, the council communication, obviously this presentation. I've attached the resolution, the section, which is a new section in the fee directory for these fees. Once City Council approves this resolution, then staff will update the directory of city fees and we'll get that posted to the intranet. It's important to note that any of these applicants would have to meet with the city clerk, and she would go over in detail these fees and how they apply to them throughout the process. Are there any questions?
Council, have any questions concerning the resolution? I've got Mr. Douglas here. You got a question?
No, that's just a
motion. Mr. Bullock, you got a question?
No, sir.
Mr. Amador, you got a question?
Yes. Are there any time limits on the fees that are outlined here? I know other municipalities do have time limits set.
No.
Very good.
Mr. Benson.
What was the total of all those fees? What's it going to cost somebody to get started?
Well, it depends obviously which of those things apply to them throughout the process, but initially it would be the $2,500 for the application fee, the $5,000 for the operations fee, and then depending on how many applicants they have in that application, then there would, for more than one, there would be an additional $1,200 fee for those additional background checks, each additional one.
And that's comparable to our neighboring cities.
Yes, it is.
Well, it just seems like a lot of money to. Okay.
All right, no other questions? Does anyone in the audience like to come forward and address the council on this resolution? Seeing no one, I'm open for a motion. Mr. Benson.
Let me get the right number here. Move to adopt Resolution 2015-57.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock.
Second.
A motion and a second. Let me turn this microphone on, maybe you can hear me. Have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2015-57. City Attorney, please read the title.
Title of Resolution 2015-57 reads, a resolution amending the Directive of City Fees and Charges.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. And we'll move into ordinances on first reading. We have ordinance 2059. Does council have any questions regarding this ordinance? Seeing no one? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this ordinance? Please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Guillermo Serna, 14122 East 102nd Place, Commerce City, Colorado, 80022. In just a question, would this bring us closer to starting to eliminate the blighted area of Derby? Because we've been under that for quite a while, and we need something to start moving in that direction in perspective to the area. Would this get us closer to starting, okay, to remove that from a blighted area?
I understand what you're saying. It's currently under Urban Renewal Authority, and it has been determined blighted. And how will this help? I'm going to ask the city manager to respond to your question.
The intended purpose for these grant funds is to fund sidewalk improvements in the Derby neighborhood. So in that sense, it'll certainly be an improvement to the neighborhood. By itself won't necessarily eliminate blighting conditions, but it will certainly help improve conditions in the neighborhood, improve walkability, improve handicap accessibility in the Derby neighborhood, which hopefully will lead to increased visitors to that neighborhood.
So I guess to answer your question, Mr. Serna, it's going to help because there's going to have some sidewalk improvements. However, a lot of Derby, all of Derby is privately owned other than the Resource Center. And we need the private owners of the Derby area to take advantage of the fact that it is under an Urban Renewal Authority, take advantage of some of the dollars that are available through that program to help not have it blighted, to help with improvements in the area. And we want to see Derby improved just as much as anybody else in the city, but it's really hard for the city to do anything more than get that advantage of the Urban Renewal Authority to help try to change those blighted areas. We need participation from the property owners as well.
Just, businesses, I think need some type of help to bring all of that through, but they also need assistance in how to get it done, because it seems like it's been at a standstill for quite a few years. And at this time, everything is still the same. And renditions and all the meetings that we have gone through, okay, in what was possible is almost forgotten. And I think that we need to do something to regenerate that business feeling around that area. So that's just my opinion in perspective to money that's being spent and what direction it's taking us. That's all.
I agree with you, and I really hope that widening Highway 2 through that area is going to have a beneficial effect. The sidewalk improvements should help as well. I know we just did a study on lighting. We want to improve the lighting in Derby so that we have better lighting to make customers feel better about being in the area. And the city can do so much to help. You know, we put in the resource center to give business owners in that area a resource and connection to dollars and to the city and to programs. And we want that area to improve as well. But we can't force people to make improvements to their property. We can just provide them with opportunity and resources, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. But I'm with you. I'd like to see the transformation of Derby take place, but I can't go out and make these people spend their money if they don't want to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else have any comments for Mr. Cerna? Seeing none? All right, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak to this resolution, or to ordinance 2059? It's before the council right now. Seeing no one, I'm going to ask for a motion to introduce ordinance 2059. Mr. Bullock?
I move to introduce ordinance 2059 by council as seated and approve the ordinance on first reading.
Thank you. Mr. Amador?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Will the attorney please read the title?
Title reads, an ordinance amending the 2015 budget of the City of Commerce City, Colorado by the recognition of the Adams County Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funds in the amount of $165,000 for the Derby Infrastructure Project and the authorization of the expenditure thereof.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Title's been read, and I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. For the record, 7 in favor, 2 excused absence. Motion carries, and ordinance 2059 is approved on first reading unanimously. Okay, ordinance is on second reading. Ordinance Z920-15. This ordinance is not listed in the consent agenda because it was not adopted unanimously by council at the May 18th meeting. Does council have any questions regarding this ordinance? Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this ordinance? Seeing none. I'm going to be, before we go into a motion, I'm going to ask the council to allow me to abstain. I was not here during the public hearing and first reading of the ordinance, and I'm not familiar with all of the case information. Therefore, I'm asking the council to allow me to abstain. So I would ask for a motion from the council to allow me to abstain from voting on ordinance Z920-15. Mr. Amador?
So move for your abstention.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried, so I will be abstaining from voting on this ordinance. Now, I want to ask for a motion on the ordinance. Z920-15. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve ordinance on second reading Z920-15. Council is seated.
Thank you. Mr. Amador?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance Z920-15 on second reading. Will the city attorney please read the title?
Title reads, an ordinance to the rezoning the property described in Exhibit A attached hereto made a part hereof located at 6440 East 64th Avenue, Commerce City, Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of Commerce City, Colorado to reflect said rezoning.
Thank you. I've had the title read. Motion and a second have been taken. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. For the record, 6 in favor, 1 abstention, 2 excused. Motion carries. Next item. Presentations. We'll start with a presentation from the Turnberry and Villages at Buffalo Run East Neighborhood Parks. Mike Brown's going to do that for us.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mike.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, I'm pleased to be here this evening and provide you a presentation with the conceptual plans for, again, both the Turnberry and Villages at Buffalo East neighborhood parks. So the purpose this evening, again, these two parks are the second and the third of the three neighborhood parks that were approved as part of the 2K initiative by voters back in the fall of 2013. The presentation this evening is purely informational in nature. There's no specific action required by City Council this evening. It's simply just to provide Council with an overview of the conceptual designs prior to going to the development of construction documents for those two parks. A brief overview of the presentation this evening. We'll start describing the public outreach process that was undertaken for both of those designs, as well as the description of the meeting format and the participation at both of those meetings, a brief description of neighborhood park features, a little bit about site context, goals that we wanted to achieve in creating those designs, the public meetings, the conceptual master plans that are a result of those meetings and that public input, and then talk a little bit about the next steps. So in relation to public outreach, there were over 1,000 door hangers distributed within a half-mile radius of both of those park sites. The ballots that folks were able to vote on their specific park and the elements and the themes thereof were both at the Civic Center and the Recreation Center. Again, those were print versions. The electronic communication, there were emails to HOAs, past attendees of meetings to both school districts, et cetera. It was on the city website and on the city and community calendars. It was posted on social media, which would be Facebook, Twitter, approximately 1 week prior to the voting period. And then there was online voting via the city's website, and that was through SurveyMonkey, if you're familiar with that. Public outreach continued. We had close communication and coordination with 27J School District, as both of those both of those parks are on a combined park school site with 27J. The C3 Works hotline had information about the design of those two parks and the public meetings related to that, and also with information letting folks know where they could vote online. And then lastly, for the media, there were press releases, an article in Your Hub, and then of course it was in Commerce City Connected. So the format of the two meetings, the first one was the Turnberry neighborhood meeting, and that was on April 8th. There was a presentation by staff, and ballots were handed out to all the participants in which they could choose one of three possible themes for their park, as well as choose their favorite playground of two or three options, their favorite shelter that would have had two or three options, and their site furnishings under each one of those particular themes. So there were a large number of options that folks could choose from. At that first meeting, we had 10 attendees at the meeting. I would note there that online participation, there were 272 ballots received online, and then 79 physical ballots, whether that was at the Civic Center or the Recreation Center or at the meeting, for a total of 351 ballots. So we think there was pretty good participation. Very similar for the Villages of Buffalo Run East. In fact, the meeting was exactly the same. I would note here online participation, again, 219 ballots received. Total physical ballots, 55, for a total of 274 ballots for the Villages of Buffalo Run East. So we think it's important to note here that if you'll recall the Frontera meetings, we didn't have as good of public participation as we would have liked. The format was a little different. We held 3 meetings, and there were 15 attendees at each of those meetings, and in general they were the same attendees at each meeting, 4 online participants, and then for the first meeting, and then 14 online participants. But if you compare that to the Turnberry overall turnout, we had 351 total ballots, and the Villages of Buffalo Run East 274. So we believe there was a significant increase. We don't know exactly what we could attribute that to, but we believe once Frontera got through the process, folks became aware of what was going on and got more involved, and so we were very happy to have a great amount of input. So again, just briefly, neighborhood parks, you'll recall in the Prairie Ways Action Plan, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan for parks, trails, and open space in the Northern Range is descriptive about neighborhood parks. They're intended to serve really just 1 square mile of residential, and generally they have 2 graded play fields. Those are multi-purpose fields, and they may or may not overlap with adjacent school sites. There's always playgrounds associated with a neighborhood park, as well as picnicking areas with shelters. Generally, they contain a walking or jogging path, usually around the perimeter. There's just low-level lighting for safety during the evenings. It's not intended for active use necessarily after dark. And there's restrooms associated with neighborhood parks as well as drinking fountains. And again, neighborhood parks would include or would not include elements that you would find generally in a larger community park, such as lighted baseball fields or softball fields, swimming pools, spray grounds, or large skate parks that are intended to serve a much wider or broader audience. So a little bit about the goals that we had in designing these parks with the public input. And of course, we wanted to establish a community vision with programming possibilities, provide a range of active and passive recreational leisure opportunities for residents of all ages and abilities, provide sustainable design, including water-conserving landscapes. We all know that's important, or at least it was until this year, or perhaps last year, but I think it will probably be moving forward. Provide accessible ADA walks and park facilities, provide strong connections to the adjacent schools and Second Creek. Thank you.
It's a movie night at the park.
Continuing with goals, explore opportunities for shared parking and minimizing the impact of traffic, and of course that's shared parking with the adjacent school sites. We want to provide a diverse and aesthetically pleasing setting, design, of course with respect to those neighboring properties. We always have to be cognizant of the fact that there are folks that live across the street from these parks, and we want to be thoughtful about how we design those and how it may impact them. Provide a safe and highly visible neighborhood park setting. Obviously, we want folks to feel safe when they're there, and we want our police department to be able to patrol those easily and provide that presence. And then lastly, create a unique theme or identity for the neighborhood. So back to Turnberry. This is just a little bit about the site context again. Generally, it's a 1/2 mile radius is the intended service area for that park. And again, the Turnberry voting results, 351 total ballots, 272 online, 79 physical ballots. And of the 3 possible themes that were available, I would note there that we had indicated a sample ballot was included in your council packet. I apologize, that actually was not included. I do have copies here for anybody who would like one. Folks were able to, though, choose from 3 possible themes for each of these parks, as well as their favorite playground, shelter, site furnishings, et cetera, within each one of those themes. So for Turnberry, the Very Hungry Caterpillar was chosen, and the special feature that was chosen was the multi-use hard court. So generally, the overall concept for the park is, you can see the 2 open play fields there, one on the right, one on the left. Generally, the playground, the restroom shelter, and the drinking fountain, so on and so forth, is centered there. We did keep a strong connection to the school, which would be directly to the west, to the Turnberry Elementary School. You'll see the perimeter path and all the other particular specific elements that you would find in a neighborhood park. These are just a couple of additional perspectives provided by the landscape architect. You can see Wheeling Street there in 106th Place. This is of the shelter area and the playground area specifically. The restroom is a little bit off to the right there behind the tree. And then again, also just from a different perspective, the restrooms, shelter, and playground. And then again, the Very Hungry Caterpillar was the theme chosen, so this is the specific playground that was chosen that will go into that park from 3 possible playgrounds within that Hungry Caterpillar theme. This is the shelter that was chosen, and at the bottom there, the site furnishings that were chosen, which site furnishings are generally benches, trash cans, bike racks, etc. And the plant palette for the Very Hungry Caterpillar was intended to be, as much as possible, very bright flowers or flowering shrubs that attract butterflies, which come from caterpillars. So I think that's the connection there. So, and then lastly, the special feature was the multi-use hard court. Folks were able to choose from 4 possible options. One was a fitness stations, the multi-use hard court, a volleyball court, or a, I'm sorry, the 4th option escapes me, but ultimately the multi-use hard court was chosen in this particular park. Moving on to the Villages of Buffalo Run East, again, that 1/2 mile radius context. Again, this is also with the Turnberry's Park School site, the school is already built, and we'll be building the park adjacent to it. It's just the opposite here at Villages Buffalo Run East. The school is not yet constructed. It will be toward the east end of that site at some point during the future. The school district does not yet have a timeline for that, and the park will be the western half of that particular site. The public outreach was also very good for this particular park design. 274 total ballots, 219 online, and 55 physical sample ballots. Of the 3 possible themes, they chose the Rocky Mountains theme, and they also chose the multi-use hard court as their specific optional element they could have in the park. So you can see this is the western half of that particular site, and again, you have your perimeter loop trail, your restroom, your playground, and we're incorporating and working with the school district to have a baseball, softball field there potentially in the future. And again, just the typical elements that we discussed previously that you would find in a neighborhood park. And again, some additional perspectives. Again, the shelters, playground. So this is the Rocky Mountain theme, again, was the one chosen from 3 possible themes. This is the playground specifically. You can see there are rock boulders there, and a lot of the structures are reminiscent of a cabin that you might find in the mountains. The shelter, obviously peaked, similar to mountains or reminiscent of mountains, and the furnishings there are sort of a slate gray, sort of a slate or stone or granite, and then the bike rack specifically you can see in the bottom there is shaped like mountains. The plant palette specifically for this was intended to be more evergreens as opposed to deciduous trees, so there will be some of those as well, and flowering shrubs and boulders and so forth, more typical of the landscape that you might find in the mountains. Then again, the special feature chosen was also the multi-use hard court. So the next steps moving forward, we'll start development of the construction drawings. We intend to go to bid in the fall of this year, start construction late in this year, and complete construction in mid-2016, of course, pending weather. We're all familiar with the current weather pattern and the delays it's recently causing. So with that, I would answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Amador, you have a question?
My light was lit up from last time, but I'll go ahead and ask a question.
Sure.
When we get into the bidding phase, how are we procuring the solicitation? Are we going into magazines, news feeds, strictly email? How are we doing that?
There are some specific procedures that have been developed. So it will, of course, be put on the city's website. We also use Rocky Mountain BidNet, which is a internet service that many contractors subscribe to that has a large number of municipalities' projects posted on it, as well as potentially ads in the Daily Journal.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? I'd just like to say, I'm excited. We had a lot more participation.
Absolutely.
I hope these parks really fit within these neighborhoods, and they are desired by the residents that live within those neighborhoods. They look like neat designs, and now we're getting a little bit of everything out there with the slide on the one, and the outdoor workout equipment around the trail. The Hungry Caterpillar is something new. I'm interested to see what that looks like, but sounds like it's what everybody wanted, and that's what we want to deliver is what those neighborhoods want. So thanks for the hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to go into refuse and recycling program update. I'd like to invite Maria DeAndrea forward to make her presentation. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight I'm going to go just over a few brief slides with you just to kind of do a progress check on a couple of key initiatives that we were tracking in order to judge the efficacy and implementation status of this project. And then I'm going to turn over the majority of the time to our waste management folks who can answer any specific questions from you. So overall, our program goal for our refuse and recycling is to provide services that collect and dispose of solid waste in a manner that is consistent with applicable laws, and also maximizing the fullest recovery of recyclable materials. So the key thing in there, and what we've tried to strive for through this project, is increasing recycling, truly, is what it comes down to, while also providing a consistent service to our customers. Again, the program objectives, minimizing waste while maximizing our recycling materials, improving education, and expanding that recycling participation. Our process for what we went through to get to our new contract that was just implemented at the first of this year was we did issue a request for proposals in July of last year. We did receive 2 proposals, and as you're familiar, we walked through those with council feedback and eventually awarded a contract to Waste Management in early October of last year. That program that was selected was called Fully Automated Collection, which involved weekly trash service, a bi-weekly or essentially every other week single stream recycling. And through that project, Waste Management has supplied and delivered one 96-gallon garbage container and one 96-gallon recycling container to each household. That was done throughout the month of March. And we implemented within that project that any additional services above that 96-gallon limit for both recycling and garbage would have to be purchased by the customer, and that Waste Management would bill those customers directly. We did continue the large item pickup for each household, and that was continued at 5 times per year for each household. And then also we have ongoing trash and recycling services at all city facilities. Those additional service costs were based on the size of the container that you selected. So, for example, if somebody wanted an additional 96-gallon, it would cost them $2.80 per month, or just over $33 per year. Originally, Waste Management was charging a $5 administrative fee to handle those accounts. They have now since, and I believe that was per quarter, since then all accounts have been credited. So they're no longer doing that. That was a clarification that we helped work through with Waste Management. Our project goal specifically, again, that's the fully automated collection project, was to transition from our previous program, which was essentially unlimited collection, to the fully automated collection, which we knew would involve some challenges. And that was to be done by March 30th. Again, so what we did, we went through in the late part of the year, we evaluated those routes, began our communications campaign. January and February was about assembling the carts and, again, reaching out to the community in terms of how this program was to be implemented. And then in late February, throughout the month of March, we began delivering those carts to each of the 5 delivery days, and also began that fully automated collection service. So so it's been approximately almost 2 to 3 months, depending on when you call the start of the project here. If you take it from when all of the carts were delivered at the end of March, we're roughly in week 13. And what we've understood from Waste Management is that it typically takes 12 to 15 weeks to implement a project of this size. We did want to evaluate the project based on kind of 4 different objectives, one being the number of citizen complaints and concerns, also the number of missed pickups, our diversion rates, which is how we measure recycling efforts, and then how many people are actually signing up for that extra service or renting those additional cans. So I've got some statistics to walk through on that. So first, with citizen complaints and concerns. So we have been tracking those internally. These are the calls to the city, not to Waste Management, but I think it gives a flavor of the program overall. And you can see that in March was the highest with 179 calls, and that has significantly gone down in both April and then again in May, and just tracking the first week there in June so far, but we anticipate that it will be less than May and that will continue to tail off. And so some of these calls also involve just asking general questions about the program, which city staff is more than happy to answer. But those concerns and complaints have tailed off. Number of missed pickups. So far, Waste Management has tracked 338 missed pickups in that 3-month period, which represents about 0.09% of all the touches, if you will, of where they actually go and make a collection on a weekly basis. So it does represent a very small portion of that, but probably higher than any of us would like to see. And just per our tracking numbers, based on the calls that I showed you in the previous graph, we have about 88, but we are counting entire blocks where they were missed as just one missed pickup. So I think a big part of this was that collection day changes, which affected, I believe, nearly almost half of all of our accounts, so somewhere around 7,000 people's actual pickup day was affected and changed. And so I think that's contributed to a number of these issues. And so Waste Management is fixing their system, trying to work the bugs out, and people are starting to fall back into the routine of their new day, which is helping them get online with the correct collection day and for both garbage and recycling. But we continue to have issues, so and just trying to work those out consistently with Waste Management staff. This graph shows how is our garbage, the amount that we collect based in tonnage over the first 4 months, which is all the data we have for 2015. So I've included here for the past 5 years what our collection rates are, and the bright red line shows 2015. So we have a number of new customers over that last 4 years, so you can expect that we'd have a higher collection rate than in past years. But I think the interesting part is that both in March and April, they're falling a little bit below some previous years, meaning that we're not collecting as much trash. Then coupling that with the next graph, you can see that, again, the red line being 2015, our recycling rate has gone up significantly in the 2 months that we've been in the program. Now, is this going to be consistent through the rest of the year? We'll have to watch that and see, but I'm hopeful that this is a trend that we'll see continue into the future. Extra service signups, we have so far 137 citizens have rented 142 containers. So we've got basically 5 people who have rented more than one. So I think out of 14,000, roughly 14,600 households, we've got less than 1% who have opted to get an additional can. Waste Management has been charging a cost of $50 for container delivery. That was not included in the contract, and we continue to work with them to determine how best to address that issue, because they do have real costs in delivering those cans, and they want to avoid the situation where citizens might only order them for a couple of months during the summer months, let's say, for yard waste, and then turn them back in, and so Waste Management isn't having to go back and forth to pick those up and deliver them. So we're trying to figure out a reasonable way to deal with that, knowing that they have a real cost to delivering those. Other issues that we've encountered, a lot of issues with their call center and disseminating either incorrect or inaccurate information. So what's going on is they call there, get that inaccurate information, and then end up calling the city very frustrated about what's really going on, what's the right answer. And so we've been working through that. Disposing of old containers has been an issue, although I think that's resolved itself for the most part. Now that we're a couple months in, most people who have wanted to get rid of their containers have gotten rid of them. We're still seeing a lot of disposal of garbage in the recycling containers, and need to do further education about that, just so people don't see that as an extra garbage container, and continue to tag them when they do that. And if there's a certain number of ongoing consistent abuse of that, how are we going to deal with that situation? We've also encountered a lot of situations where people, because it was unlimited, continue to place trash outside of the existing container, and so expecting it to be picked up. And because of the fully automated collection with the arm on the vehicle, obviously they can't take that, and so it just remains there, and they receive a tag to notify them of that. And we are also having an issue of the containers too full for pickup, or that lid being just too far set up for the pickup to happen effectively. So far, roughly 4,000 tags have been issued, and generally those primary issues are either the overloaded container, being too close to another object, or just that contamination, typically on the recycling side of having garbage mixed in with the recycling. We also, I know yard waste has been a big issue for our citizens, and one of the things that we've been talking about with waste management is trading out 1 or 2 of the 5 yearly large item pickups for each of the households, and then hold some type of a citywide yard waste collection. So we could set up the MSC, publicize a date, and have everybody bring their yard waste there. We have had low participation on those large item pickups in the past, so I don't think that that would be a loss for a lot of people. And this has been very successful in some other communities, so I think that's an option that we can consider. And for those who are either disabled or seniors who couldn't make that trip or deliver those materials, we could certainly find a way within the city to help them out. So with that, I'd answer any questions and then turn it over to Waste Management to help answer questions as well.
Does the council have any questions for Maria at this time? Mr. Amador, your light's on. Do you have a question?
Oh, it's still on from last.
You know what, I'm calling on you like that just to remind you that you need to turn it off. Okay?
There it
All right,
goes.
we have Waste Management here. Good evening.
Oh, you have a call on
Oh, there's no button here. All right, well, that's because he left his on, so you didn't get a chance. Mr. Douglas?
Teeter-totter button, huh? Okay.
Go
All right,
ahead,
thank
Mr.
you.
Douglas.
Hey, I had a question. I know we had a discussion earlier this year about the trash. We're going to have overflow containers. Is that still part of the program?
Clarify, please, what overflow container means?
Well, I know before we used to have an overflow of recycle over here off of Highway 2.
Oh.
And there was one up north. And I brought that up when we had a study session about could that be part of the contract. And the answer was we were working on that. So any kind of update on overflow containers?
So bringing materials to a specific site?
Correct.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the waste management facility does accept recycling materials at their facility. I don't believe they accept either yard waste or regular garbage.
That's correct. Okay. That's a facility down here off what,
64 and Brighton Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for Brighton Road there.
All right. The other thing about compost, I know there's a trade out for 1 or 2 for the bulk. I'm not sure what the cost is to do a survey or so, a phone survey to see if people would like to participate in that instead of us deciding. Let's put that out to the citizens to see if that's something that they would like to do. I think as much public input on any kind of changes would be great. Since this has impacted 7,000 residents as far as changing their addresses, and seeing 4,000 tags, that's over a third of people who have had problems. And those things are to be worked through and worked out. I know I have several people that called me up about their cans being picked up or dropped off, and then them taking their original cans and then dropping off to recycles, but that has been resolved since then. Charges, numerous calls of charges, so I'm glad that Waste Management has worked through those customers and continues to work with our citizens. So thank you, Maria.
Any other questions for Maria?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
How do you get rid of an old garbage can? I noticed that you put it out there and it's still out there, and even if you put a sign on it, throwaway can, it's still out there after the trash. What is the process of throwing away or getting rid of an old can?
Yeah. So if the can fit inside the 96-gallon.
No, it's
Yep. So that was one way. Otherwise, again, the arm will not pick up anything outside of the can. So you have to call and make a special item pickup with Waste Management. So that would be used as one of your large item pickups. That's the process that we're recommending.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Amador.
Yes, my light is on. Yay. So I just was exploring the Commerce City website, and it wasn't real clear on how to call for special item pickups. I think that would eliminate a lot of questions if the city website did allude to how you call for how many special item 5 times a year it would be, if there would be additional trash or recycle, and you could take that to Waste Management. I don't recall seeing, actually I do recall seeing the Waste Management number on the website. So just for transparency, I know it's www.c3gov/trash, I believe it is. So I just wanted to be a little more transparent on how you find that information, because it was a little hard to find. So that's just on our side with the city.
Mr. Benson.
Yes, how many, if you schedule a large item pickup, is item just singular, or can you have more than one large item?
You can have each large item pickup. You could have more than one, but it's limited to 40 pounds. So if you have 40 pounds of garbage, if you have 40 pounds of tree limbs, that's the limit. That would count towards one large item pickup. So if you had something, extra large, then that would count for 2.
40 pounds.
Roughly. So a mattress would count for one large item. A couch, I believe, would count for one large item. But if you had 2 such of those things, then that would count for 2.
I mean, a couch is going to weigh a lot more than 40
Yeah.
pounds.
So it's a guideline. But we don't want unlimited trash placed out there as one large item
If
pickup.
it is actually just one item, it's only going to count as one item.
Correct.
But if it's a lot of different items, for each 40 pounds, you're going to get charged for one. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Douglas.
Yeah, one more question, Maria. Who's our designee? Because when you call this Waste Management line, most of the time people get an answer not what they're looking for, so they kind of get the runaround. So do we have a designee, so when they call, the number goes to a certain department and not to Leonard Dietz?
It actually does go first to the Public Works admin staff. They assess the call, try and help out the person as much as possible. If it involves something that, is happening out in the field, Leonard does follow up with that and then reports back, kind of then becomes the liaison through Waste Management to resolve that issue.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Bullock.
I had a large item pickup a couple of weeks ago. Before Waste Management got there, somebody else came along and put it on their truck and took it away. And then Waste Management showed up, and I'm trying to explain to them that it is no longer there. Does that still count as a large item pickup that they showed up to pick it up?
I don't know.
Okay, because the guys on the truck, they said, well, put something there. And I'm thinking, well, I don't have nothing to give you,
All right. Any other, no cars, Jim? You call Gene Leffel for cars. It's not a Waste Management thing. Any other questions for Maria before I move on? Seeing none, welcome Waste Management for being here. I know we've had our trials and tribulations over the past few months, and I want to go ahead and give you the floor, and then we'll ask you some questions or comments, and we'll interact a little bit. So go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Lance Allen. I'm the area manager for Public Sector Solutions. And I'm pleased to be here. Hopefully I can answer your questions and resolve some of the issues that you have. So I don't probably just feel, I know there's been a lot of issues and concerns, and I've been following it along. We've made several adjustments and changes both to our system, to personnel, to correct these issues. And I think going forward you'll see a different company than what you've seen in the last 6 to 8 months. So.
Before we get started, do you want to introduce your colleagues?
Oh, you bet. This is
Come on.
Melissa Colwait, which I believe you know Melissa.
Okay.
And this is Tony Howard. He's actually going to be the new representative here local in Colorado for the city.
All right, great, thank you. All right, council, do you have any questions for Waste Management directly? No? I have one. I mean, we're not going to let them off the hook that easy, are we not? I mean, they were expecting to come in here and get bombarded. I think it's okay to not be too mean, but we've got to at least hit them with something. First of all, I'd like to say, honestly, our streets look better. When you drive down the street and you see the uniformity of the type of cans. I know we had a lot of residents that were frustrated with some of those initial services. I know, I think it's called the Villages of Buffalo Run. They had some concerns about the size of the cans. They were, they're empty nesters or whatever, and you were ran out of cans and they were waiting for cans. And so I was getting calls from a lot of those folks. Hopefully, a lot of those kind of concerns have been taken care of. I know personally, I had one can that had a broken wheel. That got taken care of. I did order 2 additional cans, and I'm happy with the service because now I at least can get rid of the yard waste that I have, whether it's trimming trees or lawn clippings or whatever. I did have some frustration with some billing. I really had a hard time following the billing procedure, and I know you guys have taken care of the administrative $5 fee for the billing on the containers. The one thing I found out that was odd is when I called to make a payment, they wanted to charge me a $5 administrative fee for making a payment, and I thought that's kind of odd. I'm giving you money, you're going to charge me $5? But I had a really hard time doing it via the internet, and I ended up calling Waste Management. I was able to get my payment made. I did talk to the right people, so I didn't have to pay a $5 phone payment, which after being through the process, I felt it was somewhat cumbersome because it's all, recorded messages, push this, push that, and then it says, okay, now you're ready to take your payment, you're going to have a $5 charge. And that was a little bit cumbersome for me, and I thought about the residents, and I thought, I don't know if they see that coming, because if you paid, quarterly, that you're $20 into, almost what a can costs for the year. And so we just want to make sure that we fix some of those things through the process, and you guys have been good about doing so. The other question I have is United Power offers our residents or users of United Power, those of our residents that are in the United Power service area, like a $75 benefit if we recycle like an old refrigerator. And I looked into the program, and they require a certified or a company that has a good following of taking care of the refrigerant and that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know if I call in on a large item pickup, if I can get Waste Management to pick up my refrigerator, if I can get some kind of a receipt or some kind of a document that says, hey, we picked up a refrigerator for Mr. Ford, and then I can take that to United Power so that I can qualify for their Service Star program that they have. So I'm just kind of at odds. Who do you call to pick up that refrigerator? And so we have viewers at home and viewers in the audience, and we're going to be putting additional information in our council communication out to the public. Do you guys pick up those? I know you pick those kind of items up, but if you do, when you do, is there any way for that particular resident to request some kind of a receipt or document that it was picked up by you guys and you're part of that friendly for the environment friendly for picking up a refrigerator, so that they can get the benefit, number one, of one of their large item pickups, and number two, the opportunity to have some kind of a document to show United Power so they can get the benefit of the Service Star program. Can you answer that one for me?
You bet. We will pick up the item, but it has to be serviced by a certified technician validating that it has been drained to Valve Freon.
Okay,
if
so
the-
that has to be done before you'll pick
Yes,
it up? All right.
that's correct. So once they get the technician out there to drain it, they'll get a tag and they can get a receipt from them.
All right, I got to check with Gene Lappel. He might be able to do that, and I can still turn it in. So, now, we have a whole list of stuff here to go through, of people that have turned their light on
Good.
for the first time, right, Amador? All right. Bullock, you're first.
Go with Amador.
Oh, yeah, you left your light on, didn't you?
No, I actually had something, but I
All right.
forgot.
Councilman Amador.
Thank you. I'm turning my light off right here. There we go. All right, conserving energy already. So I just wanted to see if, on the front end of this program, I had the opportunity to call Waste Management and got a bunch of conflicting information, and it was an issue. And I did call back a couple of different times, and one of the customer service reps actually asked me for the agreement that was struck between Waste Management and the city, because apparently there were conflicting informations and emails and whatnot. So I would just ask that maybe Waste Management send out a memo to their customer service reps so they know exactly what to say and if it's changed or where we're at, so they know exactly how to handle that. I was calling Arizona, I believe was the main station, so the looping wasn't too bad, but it was early in the morning. Also, I know that Commerce City has designated Leonard Dietz for a lot of the questions within the city, and I know that every coin has two heads or two faces to it, and so at the end of the day, I was getting information like, staff said to call your local councilman, and so here we go again. So I'm not sure where things were going wrong or right, but I will just say, if we're all on the same page and united with the same information, that would be awesome. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Teeter.
Yes, thank you for the presentation tonight. You've answered a few of my questions. The one that Maria brought up about the 40 pounds, that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard that, but that's good information. I have a lot of friends that were heavy into recycling, and when we first had our little green totes, they did go out and purchase the 96-gallon yellow cans. These cans are like brand new now because then we come right out with this recycling. Is there any program out there to maybe look at these containers, and if they're in good shape, to buy them back to some kind of price? I know they paid like $75, $80 for them, I believe, yes.
Yeah, right now, we don't have a program to recover those because it's like a used car. Once it goes out, they've been used, and it's difficult to reintroduce those back out into the stream, so to speak. So we don't have a program right now to manage those.
I'm sure, well, I had to ask that tonight because I know I was going to get a feedback if I didn't.
But they can, if they decide they need a second cart, they can pay for the service and use that cart and avoid, obviously, a delivery fee for that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Benson.
Yes, thank you. Listen, I want to congratulate you on your choice of the green and the yellow, which kind of fits in, to the grass and other colors down the street. Have you driven through Denver lately and seen the purple ones that they have? That has got to be the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I mean, so I think green and yellow was a great choice. Certainly better than purple.
I figured you were pushing for Texas A&M colors.
That would be okay.
That would be, not on the street, it would be ugly too.
Maroon and white, that'd be okay.
All right, Mr. Douglas.
Yes. Question about the Big Billy solar trash cans. When are those going to be deployed? I know there's two of them.
Yeah, I think there's.
Are they going to be wrapped?
We'd like to follow up with the
Okay.
We're ready to.
Yeah.
All right.
There's.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have the art, which we saw maybe a couple weeks ago with we did the art campaign, and that young lady, Joan, was selected. So yeah, I think we'll coordinate on the details and provide you with an update in the city manager's report.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bullock.
Yes, I just want to compliment one of your drivers. His name is Jason that does our area, and he has been very good with all the neighbors and everything, and instructed them on different things and different days. What is recycle week? Because there's some people that every time they put the green can out, they put the recycle can out, and they haven't got this yet that it's every other week. But he gives them feedback and everything, and he's got probably everybody in our area right on target on how to do it, how far your cans should be apart, and matter of fact, he has been a great assistance to our area. So all I know is his name is Jason, but he's been a great asset to your company.
Great. Thank you. I'll make sure his supervisor has that.
All right, Councilwoman Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have the opportunity to speak with Hutch last week to talk trash, as we always, start our conversations. And I just said, I realize we've had a lot of concerns and issues in the beginning, but I'm glad to see that Waste Management and the city are working really closely together to resolve these issues. And he said, any time, I'm here, I'm available to talk trash again. But I wanted to say, as I drive through the neighborhoods, I see some households that are repeat offenders, again, with the lids partially open or the extra bags of trash. And I guess my concern is, and these are some of the older neighborhoods close to where I live, it just seems like, because I'm very aware of what they're doing, but I'm just not sure with the tags that have been issued, how are we working to try to eliminate that or avoid it or?
So after the initial rollout and the
Right.
dust settles, as you say, we're starting to track those specific items. There's a finite list that we can actually do with our onboard computing system. So they'll track that. We'll be able to identify if they fit into certain parts of the city, and then we can either do a targeted approach, or if it's a larger thing, then maybe that's something that we use in education going forward. Because education's not going to stop. It's just may change depending on what
Right.
the issues are. So yes, that's definitely something we've already had a discussion about and starting to move forward on.
All right, good
Thank
to
you.
know. Thank you very much.
I have a couple left. One of them was, we talked about the $50 delivery fee for containers if people want extra ones. Is there any way to reduce that fee or make it go away if those folks can come to Waste Management and pick their container up so that you don't have to deliver it? Give our residents an option to come over to your place on 96th Avenue, make an appointment, whatever, pick up a container and not have you guys have a delivery fee to give them an option?
Yeah, I think that's something we could address. The one thing, and it's kind of a misnomer, it's a delivery and a return fee. So if a person ever returns that cart a year down the road, 2 years down the road, there's no fee to return it. So it's all included up front. So it's very difficult to get that return fee once you pick up the cart. So we charge that front. So we would have to have a discussion, I guess, around that, somehow identify.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, if someone said, hey, Sean, if you pick up your container, it's only $25 for the return fee, and then if you return it, we'll give you $25 back. But, just to make it to where there's some options.
Right.
Because that fee of $50 is more than the annual service for the container. And it's really hard for us to sell that as a community that, hey, you're getting a great deal. You can get another container for $33 a year, like we saw in the presentation. But add another $50 on there for delivery and return. And, I would be willing to save a little extra money by picking that tote up myself.
Sure.
And then knowing that I have that option to return it when I'm done. It might be an idea for helping with how we can offset some of that fee for our customer and offset some of the cost for your delivery.
No, that's a great idea.
Okay?
Yeah.
I did want to take the time, I know Mr. Dietz has been dealing with trash now for months, and I see him in the audience, and I just wanted to thank him for being the in-between for the council, handling all of these calls for service. I'm sure you're not done, but hopefully you're having more time to do other things than just take calls for the trash service. So we appreciate the fact that you have been the whipping post for the trash service for the first 4 months. Anybody else have any other comments? Oh, Councilwoman Elliott, your light's on. Would you like to say something?
I'd like to say that I turned my light off.
All right. I'm going to get them to realize that here one day. It just loads up. I get everybody's name on here, and I don't know who wants to talk. And all right, well, it's your first offense. Mr. Amador.
I'd just like to thank Leonard Dietz as well for being the whipping post. I know I did make a comment, but please don't take it personal. I understand that there's two sides to every coin and story, so I know that you've helped relieve our phones from blowing up and continual trash conversations with community members, so I appreciate it. So please don't take it personal. Thank you.
All right, so for all of our residents that are watching or here tonight, Waste Management is here and available. If you have concerns, you're more than welcome to call them. And we also have Mr. Dietz that you can call and ask him. But we want this program to work effectively for our community, as does Waste Management. And I can tell you it does make our streets look a lot better. It was a transition to figure out how to handle your garbage on a weekly basis with one container. I think most people from the looks of the graphs, it's starting to settle in and not be as cumbersome. And, I just don't want to freak those people out that have a 60-pound recliner that they want to set out on a large item pickup day that you're not going to come and get it. And you've assured us that, that does happen, and that those folks do have, and we need to get more information out about it. Those folks do have 5 large item pickups that they can utilize throughout the year, because right now it's not Waste Management's fault, but I would say I'm seeing an increase to the amount of trash that is deposited alongside the roads. I don't know if that's because people have, I saw a recliner the other day, we see tires, whatever. If they would utilize the 5 large item pickups to dispose of some of that stuff, so we don't see it on our roadways. We want to try to keep our city as clean as possible, and we're doing a much better job. But we need residents to help out, and they have those 5 large item pickups coming to them, and I want to make sure that they take advantage of those. Thank you to Waste Management for coming in tonight. We look forward to seeing you again, and hopefully we'll have decreased those complaints even more the next time. So thanks again.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
All right, now we're going to move into another presentation or plan review. Rocky Mountain Arsenal Wildlife Refuge Comprehensive Conservation Plan Review. I'm going to ask Chris Kramer, who's already up here, to make the presentation. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a quick follow-up to a presentation that you heard on June 1st by David Lucas with the Rocky Mountain Arsenal National Wildlife Refuge. I'll get to his presentation in just a moment, but just as a bit of background on what this process is, I'll go through this relatively quickly. You've heard this a number of times already, but the Rocky Mountain Arsenal National Wildlife Refuge is going through a CCP process, Conservation Comprehensive Plan process, their version of a master plan. The city has had representatives throughout. There are a number of other stakeholders outside of the city as well, which you can see there. This plan has been going on for a little while now, coming up on a couple years, starting in October, I believe. There's been workshops throughout, and staff has been present to make sure that we are advocating for various issues as we go. You'll recall on June 1st, there was a presentation by David Lucas, and he outlined a number of things, specifically the process that they've used, the 4 main alternatives that are being proposed in the plan. The always required no action alternative, a traditional refuge, the urban refuge, and gateway refuge. Urban and gateway are very similar. There are some new elements that are common to all those throughout, and when I say throughout, I mean the B, C, and D, specifically the improvements to Second Creek and First Creek, the DIA conservation corridor on the east side of the plan, and the restoration of native species, including the black-footed ferret. In the presentation, Mr. Lucas presented what they are including in this final draft as the preferred alternative, which is option C. It's the urban refuge. It's expanded visitation, an emphasis on expanded visitation, an emphasis on increased access for the surrounding neighborhoods. Maintain one entrance, one main vehicle entrance. They do want to enhance that. Expand a self-driving tour loop, so instead of just having to use a guided tour, you can drive yourself. There is the identification of a partners village here in the Victory Crossing area. And finally, some Rattlesnake Hill renovations. It's expected to take around 15 years. They don't necessarily have the funding identified for all of these improvements. In fact, very many of these improvements. It's still a ways off, but Mr. Lucas and his staff are very creative. I'm sure they will begin to identify some of those quickly. This is the map associated with the preferred alternative. And just to highlight a couple of things for Commerce City benefits, the partner village is highlighted here on the Victory Crossing area. The increased improvements to the visitor area. There is going to be a potential pull-off along Highway 2. The fence along 96 will be pulled back in this area, which will allow for a trailhead at either end to be on the Arsenal. Denver is also going to receive that sort of similar treatment along the old Buckley alignment area, where the fence will be pushed back. The Bison Range will be extended and be much larger. And then finally, they're going to have access to the main visitor trail network along 56th. This configuration is consistent with what the earlier plans were that staff had been advocating for and that you had submitted a letter for a number of months back. So overall, there's a comment period occurring right now that is scheduled to end July 6th. That was the purpose of Mr. Lucas's visit and presentation to you. The purpose of tonight is to give you a draft letter that we're asking you to vote on tonight that would allow the mayor to sign the letter. In that letter, it's in your packet, we outline a few things. First of all, there's a number of items that we support, specifically the alternative C, the proposed entrance improvements, the singular vehicular access. If you recall, some of the earlier versions showed vehicular access along 56th. We have pushed really hard to ensure that the vehicular access stays as it was originally designed, which is through the Victory Crossing project. Additional trail access both on the Denver and Commerce City sides, the pushing back of the fence to allow for the access areas, the species introduction and reintroduction, such as the black-footed ferret, and then the additional programming that Mr. Lucas talked about when he was here. There were some concerns that are included in the letter that's in your packet tonight. The biggest are probably the first two that you see here, the timing of the improvements. We want to ensure that, with two of the sides of the Arsenal being in the Denver side and two of the sides being in the Commerce City side, we want to ensure that certain elements don't get all implemented on the Denver side first, frankly. That's the simplest way of putting it. In fact, we would like to actually see that be done equitably, and that the gateway entrance to the visitor center, really, those improvements should be done first. It's the front door of the Arsenal, therefore it should be the showcase. A second issue that we want to make sure that we voice our views on would be the parking at the trailheads. So if we go back to the map for just a moment, it does show parking here along 56th. There is actually a parking lot already installed here, and that was done by Denver. That was not done by the Arsenal, but they do show parking here. We have concerns that it might confuse visitors who may be, for example, coming from DIA, who are attempting to find the visitor center, and they see those first as they're coming down 56th. Furthermore, it's not consistent with the neighborhood theme that they have of trying to encourage access from the surrounding neighborhoods by walking or biking. So as a result, we're including some comments that address that as a way to make sure that the visitor center is still emphasized and that it encourages pedestrian and biking access. There is some discussion that we have in the letter about the 96th Avenue crosswalk. There's some sight distance issues there. We want to make sure that it's safe. And then also ensure that the Arsenal does not, they have a lot of control sometimes where those bison roam, even when they're free roaming. where they put their water, some practices like that. We want to ensure that they don't get concentrated in one area too much all the time. Make sure that all the surrounding areas have an opportunity to view and view the bison. So, when Mr. Lucas presented to you, you had some feedback for him. We want to make sure that you understood. We heard that feedback and incorporated that. That you guys appreciated the access from the north. You did support the driving tour expansion, and that you were appreciative of the residents having an opportunity to learn more about nature, even though we're right here in the middle of the big city. So with that, again, staff did include the letter that we are asking you to authorize the mayor to sign tonight, and we are here for any questions that you might have of us.
Thanks, Chris. Mr. Bullock?
The only question I have, Chris, when you mentioned improvements to Rattlesnake Hill, what are they, exactly what are they talking about doing? I know it's the high point of the Arsenal, and I was just trying to visualize anything that they would be doing to improve it. Are they bringing it down?
Yeah, I believe, and I'm also going to rely on Jenny for a little help here, but I believe they are making improvements to the pedestrian access up. Furthermore, they are including some parking in that area, if I'm not mistaken. So when I say improving the pedestrian access, what I really mean by that is installing pedestrian access, which I guess it currently has done. I remember walking to the top of Rattlesnake Hill myself a few times, but it's just, sort of an informal path as opposed to maybe a lined, paved, or at least Crusher Fine's path to the top.
On this map, would you put your little arrow and show where Rattlesnake Hill is?
Can everybody see that?
Right.
And
so
that's
they're
why you
going
can
to-
you can see the little P for parking right
Okay,
there.
so they're going to try to provide parking and, good, okay.
If I understand it correctly, you might be able to access it from the driving loop by coming from here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay, now it does. I just didn't see what they were going to renovations, but if that's what their plan is, this is the first time I've heard about that, but I imagine in their CCP, it was in there somewhere. I just didn't get to read the whole thing.
All right, Mr. Teeter.
Thanks, Chris. Well, first of all, the Rattlesnake Hill, there is no main road up to the top of that hill yet. That's just a matter of
walking
or, yeah. We used to drive up there many times, but different directions, so it didn't really matter how you went up there, you just went up there. Okay, a little clarification, Chris. You talked about the expanding the gates for the buffalo. I hope that is not east of the Arsenal perimeter line at this time, just inside, right?
So there is discussions, I believe they are working out a maintenance agreement with the city and county of Denver for the fenced-in area that would allow the bison to go onto city and county of Denver land.
Okay.
This little area that my pointer is highlighting to. So as new arrivees are coming in from DIA, turning on Pena, they could theoretically see the bison herd.
Okay,
from Pena.
I know, talking to the Fish and Wildlife people, they really weren't in favor of that. That's why I was kind of curious. Thank you.
No comment?
Sometimes these processes take twists and turns, and the outcome is often interesting to see.
Thanks. I just wanted to see if you could drum something up real quick. I'm not ready for you yet. I'll come back to you. Mr. Amador, your light's not on, by the way.
I'd like to thank staff for having a global vision of what this is going to look like first, and then working with the Rocky Mountain Wildlife Refuge. David Lucas is always a good partner and person to have in our corner. I do see him advocating for this plan. I somewhat have concerns about the bison coming across the other side of Pena Boulevard, or what that looks like in that fence line. I did a little story. I had a friend come from Washington, D.C., and she said, hey, the air is so beautiful and clear out here, and what's this green space that I drove by? And I'm thinking to myself, well, it would be really nice for her to see, buffalo out there and real wildlife, and I think we take that for granted in our community, that it's right in our backyard. So it would be neat to see what that looks like as far as the conservation corridor and the bison range. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Chris. The question on 96 Avenue crosswalk. What do you have in mind to make that more safe to cross? Because right now, speed limit is reduced to 30 miles an hour. The only thing I can see is either have it go over or under.
Yeah, we're not proposing a grade-separated pedestrian crossing of any kind. We just want to make sure that we get it in the record that there are some issues along there. So before they get too far with the trailhead of placement, arrangement, any kind of parking, make sure that we work on that project together and jointly to ensure that those safety concerns that we have get addressed appropriately. And so spacing, making sure that you have the right sight distance, maybe that needs to go on the west side instead of the east side. It's really more details to ensure it's as safe as can be. So we just want to ensure they understand they need to talk to us about that when that time comes.
Right, because maybe we could have something in later, because I know 96 is slated for future capital improvement project, and maybe at that time we could introduce just as on 104th to go underneath the road. So
yeah, that would be a good time, because by then we should have excellent counts for how many pedestrians are utilizing the crosswalk. And so, just like with traffic, if there's enough pedestrians that are utilizing that, it will help justify those kinds of improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bullock.
Getting back to seeing bison off of Pena Boulevard, that is strictly a Denver suggestion that they want to make them tourist attractions. I'm surprised they don't have little side billboards on the side of them and make sure that they're walking around out there, welcome to Denver. But it is definitely, it wasn't something that Fish and Wildlife wanted to do, moving that stockade fence that close to Pena. But sometimes you just don't have a big say-so in a lot of things that happen.
Along those lines, council should be aware, earlier versions of the preferred alternative, so not the other alternatives that we were not necessarily in support of, earlier versions of this alternative continued what Councilman Bullock just said as far as their attempts to capture especially DIA traffic, and that's why earlier versions of the plan, you might recall, showed a lot more access points and parking lots and maybe even vehicular access before you got to the visitor center. I would say that was probably been one of the top 2 or 3 issues that our staff has advocated for throughout this process because of our understanding of the dynamic that Councilman Bullock just outlined. We felt that to be the case as well, and so we've been frankly pushing pretty hard on that issue. It was hard for us to push that same way on this issue since there's no real equitable distribution on either side. We don't. So we attempted to make sure that the access was as equitable as possible.
All right. Just as a point of clarification on that particular piece of property, I have been slightly involved with the DIA Denver mediation, and actually had an ACC meeting today, and that piece of property was a part of the discussion, because the 1,500 acres that Denver's going to get as part of this agreement, if voted on by Adams County and Denver, this is not executive session stuff. That piece of property would be eligible for part of that 1,500 acre slot of land. And so if that becomes approved and becomes a developable site by Denver, they may not want the bison there anyway. But we don't know We're not designating what 1,500 acres the airport would get to utilize for development. So that may or may not be in that realm, and with it being right next to Pena with the on and off ramps, it could be, and potentially one of the first development sites just because of access. So last week at my council meeting, or 2 weeks ago, I guess went a little too far and got the press all worked up about something was going to happen, and trust me, I took my licks over that, but I couldn't tell you whether Denver's going to develop that or not if this is all approved, but I would tell you that if it's all approved, that piece would be part of that 1,500 acre, or could be utilized as part of the 1,500 acre bank that they have, so they could determine if they wanted to use that property for development or not, therefore making that property more valuable for them as a development site than as a bias and viewing area. That'll be up to Denver, but it's up to the voters first to determine whether they approve the intergovernmental agreement. So I think there could be some more discussion about what happens on that land between Denver and the Arsenal.
Sure.
But I like the plan that we have supported, this particular alternative. I'm interested to see how it works. I'd like to see the introduction of more of the wildlife, black-footed ferrets, and the pronghorn antelope. So, and I guess he said sharp-tailed grouse. So we'll see how it all works out. But it is turning into a very beneficial area for our community. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Now, take up the item of interest is the letter, and a motion and a second by this council to move forward with a vote. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve the mayor to sign the letter from the City of Commerce City to approve the draft of the comprehensive conservation plan review.
Mr. Teeter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to allow for me to sign the letter discussed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion is carried. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, we'll move into administrative council business. There is a need to call for a special meeting to be held on Monday, June 22nd, for the purpose of considering an agreement for resolution of DIA issues. I'm open for a motion. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve.
Mr. Teeter.
Second.
A motion is second to allow for that special meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We have, now we'll go through other administrative business. I do have a request for some travel. I've been invited from the Air Force to learn more about the Air Force and how Buckley provides services around our region. This would be an opportunity for the overnight trip. I would go to Buckley Air Force Base and have breakfast, and then we would load our luggage and board an aircraft and head to Nullis Air Force Base. Then we would also leave and go look at another Air Force base in Nevada. And then we would get to see some of their unmanned equipment and things of that nature. But they sent me this request for an invite for other elected officials who will also be joining me. I would imagine the mayor of Aurora, maybe the mayor of Denver. But the cost is a total of $268. That includes all my airfare, which is by their planes, hotel, my food, everything is a total of $268. I'd bring back information that I acquired and learned from attending. And so I'm asking the council to allow me the $268 of travel to go on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Mr. Bullock?
Move to approve.
Mr. Teeter?
Second.
Motion and second to allow me to attend this. It's in July. July 14th, I believe, 14th to 15th, 14th to come back, 14th and 15th. I just got it this evening, haven't got to look at all the details, but I did go through it and thought that it would be great to experience. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. I'll bring you back a report. Thank you. Then I also have here a travel request from Mr. Douglas. Mr. Douglas would like to go to the IBTTA Conference, International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association. It's in Miami, Florida. It's July 12th through the 14th. Total estimated cost of the request is $1,751. Let's see. What else you want to tell us about it, Steve?
Before I get into that, I'll let everybody know that I did apply for that Strengthening Neighborhood grant of $5,000, and I was approved for that.
Okay.
And out of that $5,000, I'm going to use $674 towards the Building One America Summit. So that was approved, and then my other request for the annual summit later in September is not due till July 15th. So we'll let you know how that application in that process, how that's going. On this tolling, I'm the alternate on E470, and a number of issues and discussions come up. That authority also manages the Highway 36, I-25, E470, and we might have a managed lane here on 270 here in the city. The biggest problems, I'd say, is collecting tolls from outside the state, our neighbors, and then this with this electronic tolling and managing lane and inoperability. What it does, it goes over in a deep dive. It's like it's a workshop, basically, for all the tolling companies that do collect tolls. And Colorado is all electronic, where most of the states are not. And pretty much this is a workshop that gives me, it goes into great detail of how things work, because I think we're headed down that road when it comes to paying for new roads and everything. Might end up here with Pena later on, that we might have to have managed lanes out there as well. So this gives me an opportunity to get a good insight of how things work. This workshop comes up every year, and in the last 3 years I have not been able to attend, and this is the first time I have an opportunity to do that. And this was a request by Councilman Benson that I should attend this. So that's why I'm going forward with this request.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Benson?
Yes, I did suggest to Steve that he attend this. I know he will likely be the next member from this council of E470, and the issues of interoperability and all electronic tolling, I guess, are right at the heart of the toll road business. I've been to a couple of these. Of course, I went to one back in April on road usage charges, which is another thing altogether. But this will enable Steve to hit the ground running, so to speak, later on this year when he takes over as the member. So I would urge the council to vote for it.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock?
I was just going to make the motion. We have the full itinerary here, and so I felt that everything was pretty self-explanatory.
All right, I don't have any other people signed up to speak, so go ahead with your motion.
Move to approve Mr. Douglas going to the IBTTA conference.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Benson? Mr. Benson seconds it. Before we vote, I'd just like to thank Steve for looking at additional funds through grants and stuff like that for travel to help offset those expenses from our residents and the tax base, okay? I think it's important that you reach out and when you have exhausted the funds that we have in our travel budget for yourself to be able to get educated, that you look at other venues. And I applaud you for going out and looking at grants to help cover some of those costs so that it's not a burden to our residents. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion is carried. Mr. Bullock?
I don't know why you're calling me.
Oh, it is now. All right, is there any other administrative council business?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
It's my light, sorry. I had a question on I get a lot of people asking about disagreement with the IA as far as our IGA and all, what can be built. If we could put that in a newsletter explaining if this passes, what does it look like? I mean, people are thinking, hey, are we going to build a refinery up north? Or, what are the stipulations as far as commercial built and what does that look like for a future in our city? The other thing, I know we already have the ramp approved. Denver agreed with that, and we're having the Tower Road put in. Is there any way we could do the Pena ramp first, or simultaneously do that ramp, and wherever the expansion for Tower starts, but at the same time do the ramp instead of waiting till the end, because that is so much more important to get that done first, because we're on a time frame versus allocated dollars.
Go right ahead, Brian.
If I might answer, we ideally would like to include the ramp with the Tower Road project. That's not going to be possible. The ramp and the portion of Tower Road that's within the city and county of Denver is subject to the federal environmental approval process, which is going to require additional work during the design phase and ultimately approval by FAA of our plans to build the ramp. So the ramp itself will actually lag behind Tower Road. We're not sure by how long. Tower Road, our portion of Tower Road, is scheduled to start this fall. The ramp's going to be at least several months behind our portion of Tower Road.
Okay. All right. And then a clarification, I know on, we're having the Lutheran High School built on 104th, and right now there's modulars over there. Is that temporary building until the permanent structure is built?
I believe so, but we can do some checking and provide an update in next week's city manager update.
Okay. And then last one is there anything going across from right next to First Choice Emergency? I know they're still doing grading out there. Any potentials about the lots layouts and everything?
Again, I don't believe so. I think they're doing some site grading to make those sites more attractive to development, but we can double check.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any administrative council business? Mr. Amador.
Yes, thank you. So this request is actually for the city manager to look into. I received an email that I will forward on to you from Georgia O'Neill. She's one of our core city residents, and apparently she was told through the Parks and Recreation swimming staff that the water exercise class for seniors is being canceled. And that is on a Saturday morning, and the reason that was given was for swim lessons. And so the email goes on to say that the senior water aerobic program wouldn't bring in as much revenue as the swim lessons would. And so she's asking for City Council to look into this. She also does go on in her email to say, and I don't know if anybody else got it, that she was with about 5 or 6 other senior counterparts in the evening swim, and she was told to get out of the swimming pool because it looked like they were in a class trying to exercise. So I just want to be clear that we're not discriminating against our senior citizens, and having a thorough program for everyone to make it inclusive for the seniors and the children. So I don't know, this is the first time that I've heard this, but I'll forward this on, just maybe someone could outreach to her and also give the city council an update why we're possibly cutting programs, because it's the first time that I've heard that. So, thank you.
Mr. Amador, I can tell you, I did receive some emails as well about the fact that they cut, they moved, they didn't cut, they moved the class for one of those senior workout, aqua size, whatever they call it, classes to another time and another day. I guess it upset the folks that were taking advantage of that, and the reason that I received through email from the Parks and Rec Department was that there was more of a demand. It wasn't about money, it was more of a demand for additional classes, swim lessons, that it would provide a service for more people than what was taking advantage of that class, so that they shifted them to be able to allow for those hours to be used to provide more service. I would like the staff to look into it more as well, just to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons, and to make sure we're trying to accommodate the seniors. And if it's open swim, I don't know why anybody would care whether they were acting like they were in a class or not. But I will defer for anything additional to Mr. Jim. Mr. Jim. How about Mr. Brian?
What we'd like to do is confirm the information the Mayor Ford's provided, get an update in next week's city manager update.
Thank you. Councilwoman Elliott.
Thank you. Brian, I'm not sure if you've gotten any inquiries, but I've gotten a few comments over the last few weeks about the folks at home that watch our meetings, that they say they can't really hear us very well, and that it's very dark
And
up
it
here, I'm assuming.
breaks up.
Yes, so they're not able to watch the council meeting fully because it's too disruptive. They end up changing the channel or whatnot, but I've had a few comments received in the last few weeks.
We can absolutely check. Are those comments related to the feed on Channel 8 or the online access?
On Channel 8.
Channel 8.
yes.
Channel 8.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further administrative council business? Councilwoman Elliott? All right, thank you. Seeing no more, we'll go into reports. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor Ford. We did distribute prior to this evening's meeting this week's edition of the City Manager Update. We have a number of updates tonight regarding the outdoor pool, weed issues on Landmark and Parkside Drive North, concerns about construction trailers, a summary of the chief's meeting with Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 19, and an update provided to us from RTD where they are seeking input in their general manager search. Then we've also included our capital improvement program update, the city council work schedule, so please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Just to let you know, and I'll confirm that you have scheduled a special meeting for next week. The reason for that meeting is I believe that we are finally nearing conclusion of our negotiations with DIA, the mayor, and Councilman Teeter will probably, I would hope, support that prediction. And
I'm not saying nothing after I dealt with the press last week, or 2 weeks ago.
okay, I'll just say that we have scheduled for a special meeting next Monday night. And this is not an executive session information out of the DIA, but the purpose of that meeting is to consider approving a final agreement regarding the DIA development.
Thanks, Bob. All right. I'll go through my report real quick. Had an ACC meeting, and then a council meeting, then we had the press announcement. That day was miserable for me. I got calls from everybody wanting to know what I was talking about at the council meeting. Well, then on Tuesday we had the press release. It all went okay. I'm sorry, Wednesday we had the press release. So Tuesday was a bad day. Wednesday got better. Rotary Then we attended several of us attended the telephone town hall meeting, which was well received. I talked to several residents while I was out and about in the community since then, and many of them were on the phone listening to the meeting. They didn't get their answers, their questions answered, so I got to visit with them and help them answer some of their questions. But it seems like it was well received. Look forward to doing another one fairly soon. And I will tell you, there were several of the council members. I don't recall who all was there. I know Mr. Bullock, Councilman Elliott, Mr. Steve Douglas. Rick, were you there? No. You were in MVIC, that's right. Andrew was there, as well as Jason McEldowney. So it went over pretty good. Then I attended and spoke at the ACED Investor Forum, Rotary again, and then I went down to the stadium and recorded the Fourth Fest message, welcoming people to the community when we have the big Fourth Fest. And then we had a neighborhood outreach. I was on the losing side of the bet. I thought it would get rained out. Actually, the weather held. It went over pretty well. Got to see a lot of the residents there. Again, answer several questions. Seemed like most people are pretty happy. There are a few that just wanted to know about parking issues or what about some weed complaints and dead trees, you know, the stuff that we take care of. And we were able to get them to the right people because we had enough booths set up. So that went over well. Thank you to all the staff that helped put that together. And then yesterday I got to attend the Rotary Trap Shoot with my colleagues, Mr. Bullock and Mr. Amador over there. And we got to spend the day exercising our Second Amendment. Had fun. We had a good time, a lot of fun. It was very beneficial to the Rotary Club. It helps with our shoe program. We do shoes every year for needy children in Commerce City. So that went very well. Mr. Bullock received a prize. Mr. Bullock, why don't you tell us about your prize?
In the raffle, I received this great barbecue grill that they were raffling off, and a bag from United Power. One of the insignificant things that I did win was I was very last place in the trap shoot. I didn't even break 20 points, so that means that there's a lot of good clay that's left unbroken because of my shooting. But I'll be better next year. I'll get to 20.
Me and Andrew are thinking about getting you a T-shirt that says "Save the Clays" campaign. Mr. Amador, you want to report on that? On the trap shoot?
Yes, this year I didn't receive the Purple Shoulder Award from shooting the shotgun so many times that your shoulder goes completely purple and bruised up. So I'm happy to say that I held that thing tight, and it only hit me in the jaw a couple of times. So it's a little sore, but I'm good. It was a really good event for the Rotary Club. They did have a phenomenal turnout this year. Like I believe Reba Drotar was helping with that, push that within the community as well. So it's always nice to be there and support the Rotary Club.
Goes to a good cause. And this year, one of our Rotarians lost his daughter after she was born. She lived for 52 or 54 days. And one of the guns that was raffled off was go to help out the family for their loss. So we did that on top of the shoe program and everything else. So Rotary is a great organization within our community. They do a lot of good things. I would recommend anybody that wants to participate in either the trap shoot or the golf tournament to get a hold of either myself or Mr. Bullock. We can take you as a guest to Rotary. You're more than welcome to come and see what a Rotary meeting's like. But right now, this year, Rotary has put itself out there to deal with mental illness. And we've had plenty of trainings in our community for mental illness. And they're doing good work, good organization. A lot of people don't realize what they're about. But I'd put it out there to offer to anybody that wants to be a guest of mine or Mr. Bullock's. We'll take you to a meeting. They meet Wednesdays at 12 o'clock noon at the El Jardín Restaurant on Highway 2. So if you're interested, it would be my pleasure to take you to a Rotary meeting and program. And then today, I finished it up, me and Mr. Teeter, with a airport coordinating committee meeting, and apparently we're going to have another one Friday. So I thought I was going to start getting out of some of these every week, twice a week type of all day long meetings, and it seems like they're getting to be more. So we'll see how that goes, but things are moving along on the DIA, Denver, ACC, IGA, and some of the things that are moving forward I think will be very beneficial to our region from a development standpoint. So there will be more information coming. The next step is to approve an IGA to move forward and get the ballot language set and take it before our voters. So that's all I have. If anybody would like to add to my report, you're more than welcome to. And I think it's very important that we give Councilwoman Elliott a moment to talk about her trip back to D.C. as a representative of Commerce City. Would you please do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I went on a 3-day trip, actually 2.5-day trip. It was actually really quick. Trip to D.C., and I was able to interact with our Congress men and women and our Senate delegation, and we had the opportunity to listen to what was going on both on Congress floor and Senate floor, what bills were being voted on. It was a great interaction, a lot of time to do some networking as well, but we had a lot of questions that came up. I did represent the city well, I believe, because Commerce City is making itself known. I've had a lot of people that stopped me in conversation and saying, well, you know, if you're from Commerce City, they're really doing some great things. What type of development is going on at the dog track? And they know about our 2K projects. So I was able to learn a lot of information from this trip, interact with other like-minded business professionals. And so I just want to take this opportunity to thank the citizens of Commerce City and to my council colleagues for the opportunity to travel. It was a great trip. It was short, but it was jam-packed with a lot of things, a lot of sessions. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing nothing further, if there be no further business to come before this council this evening, we are adjourned. I'm going to